Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I hope all of you are doing great. So, welcome to another PMI question answer session. Today, our topic is build a team. Again, the topic is from people domain. I hope you all know there are three domains in the exam: people, process, and business. People domain is very important from exam perspective and it covers 42% of the exam. So we are discussing people domain. So it's 18th session, last 7 sessions were relevant to people domain. And prior to that, we were discussing agile product management. So I'm going to show you question number 171 again for 60 seconds. You will be writing your responses in chat window directly to me so that you do not influence others. And then we will be discussing the options, or I'll be taking your comments and we will be discussing the right answer. All right, so your time starts now. All right, so let's start. Mohan, you have chosen option D. Why?
I actually had a similar question, and I think as a project manager, right, the first thing you got to do is update the issue log if there is, this development, right? So I think this is step number one, and then you kind of take the next action of how do you replace, how do you find a replacement on that. So
All right, thank you. Rahul, you have chosen option A.
Um, Honestly, I'm not sure on this one because it's one of those questions which A is like the best thing that you can do, which is like, yeah, you need to think about the project. So you need to make sure the timelines are not impacted. So immediately, start delegating the work to other people or whoever the most qualified person is. But on the other hand, I also think informing project sponsor is also important because as there might be an impact and as they are the sponsors, so they have the right to know. So I was kind of confused between A and C, so but I chose one. So
All right, thank you. Felicity.
I feel similarly to Rahul. I was trapped between A and C, so but my inclination is always to prioritize communication. So I feel like it would be almost in the same breath. I would shoot off an email to the project sponsor, and then the next one would be to the next team member telling them that this person's left and that we need them to help.
All right. Lela, you have chosen option A.
Yeah, so I have same reason. Once you find out somebody's leaving and you have to actually get somebody else doing that work, right? We can just let that works, be like that. So I think I feel strong, really strong with choice A. I didn't even think of other ones, to be honest. I went through it and I was like, that's the most appropriate answer.
Okay, thank you. Anna, you have chosen option B. Why?
Um, I believe that because it's a key resource, right? We should start finding a replacement of the resource because probably it's not possible to delegate to another team member. Um, yeah, I think the first thing would be to start finding a replacement.
All right. So thank you so much. Good responses. So yesterday I sent you some 25 tips if you have read those. So when you're solving PMI exams, there are some, PMI principles or practices that you need to understand. We call it PMIism. So one of the PMI good practices is whenever you encounter an issue, a problem, the very first thing is document that issue or problem in the issue log. The first thing is documentation. Once you document, then you find the workaround. Then maybe informing the sponsor would be the next step after that, or maybe temporarily delegating work to another team member, and then immediately starting or finding a replacement. So you should carefully watch what examiner is asking. If examiner is asking about first action, look for that. If they're asking what is the best action, then the answer would be different. And in some questions, you might have observed it says what project manager should have done differently. Now that is past, that is not future. So you should carefully read the question. So it says, what is the first action that you need to do? So first action is document, then do all the things. Obviously, we will be doing all the things. Okay. If the question is about, what's the best action in this regard, or what is the best thing to do to solve the problem? Maybe the best thing is temporarily delegate the work to another qualified team member and then do other stuff. Okay. So please pay attention to the statement of the question. All right, so let's read the explanation. Sorry. Okay. Read the explanation, then we'll move to the next option.
I have a quick question.
Okay, Alan, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit confused because, for example, some of the last questions that in the last topic, the first step is analyze the situation. So in this case, being honest, for me, will be documented. The problem is not like analyze the situation. It's like just I don't know how can I explain that. That makes sense for me. Analyze and document because it's confused which action will be first.
So Alan, there is no option for analysis here. Okay. There is no option for analysis, number one. And number two, whenever you encounter an issue or problem, the first action is document that. If you document only, then you would be able to analyze, right? The documentation is critical. Without documenting, you cannot analyze, okay? Right. Next question, please. All right, so Chinamis, you have chosen option A. Why?
Yes, I'm choosing A. Now I chose D, but I'm taking it to A. I was confused. I was split between A and D because for me the first thing would have been normally project managers are um, urged to negotiate a lot when it comes to having issues with functional managers. So I chose A, but I'm seeing that it's a critical project. There's a resource that's critical to the project and is occupied, and so that I'm confused, but I'm sticking with A.
Thank you. Jashri,
Okay.
you have chosen option A.
Sorry?
It's okay, Chinamis. Thank you.
Okay.
Jashri, you have chosen option A.
So the first action next to identifying that he's occupied with operational activity is checking with the functional manager if the resource can be shared. That should be the first action.
Okay. So you're also inclined towards sharing the resources. Okay. Thank you. Any other? Rahul?
I'm actually honestly going through the same situation at my workplace. So yes, I chose answer A, but now I think it's like there's no mention of functional manager in the question. Uh, honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
I think yes, sharing the resources kind of makes sense, but not sure. Yes, C could also be another option, which is, requesting another resource.
Good
So
try.
yeah,
Thank you.
it's a tricky
Anna,
one.
you have chosen option D.
Sorry, did you say Anna?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I chose D because I mean we should discuss the risk of not having that resource, and maybe that is going to create a delay on the project. So I mean I think I should communicate, right? That, and probably after that we could negotiate with the functional manager or something.
All right. You're the only one who has chosen D. Okay. Yusuf, you have chosen C.
Yeah, actually, the matter is we prefer not to share resources because the flow. That's my reading before. That's why I answered this. It's better to have it allocated for the project only. You share your resources. This will be delay in time, delay in everything. So it's better to allocate it only to the project. That's from my reading and my previous classes.
All right, thank you. So if we look at this question, one thing is clear, like these questions are very practical, and these are not just theoretical questions. These are real life situations that we all face in our day-to-day work. A resource that is critical to your project means you need that resource, right? It is needed, it is required. But the problem is that resource is working for operations, right? Operational activities. So Rahul was saying there was no mention of functional manager when the question says operational activities means those are headed by functional manager. Operations are headed by functional managers. So functional manager is there. Now you need a resource that is critical to your project. What you can do? Negotiate partial resource sharing. Resource is critical to your project, so maybe you need full time because it's critical. So we don't know if we need partially or fully. So if a resource is critical, we cannot just jump directly towards sharing without analysis or without the need, like how much time a resource should be present for your project. So partial resource sharing might not be helpful. Maybe functional manager agrees, but still that does not solve your problem. Second, adjust the project schedule to accommodate resource availability. It means you're just letting go of that resource. You're adjusting your schedule or your resources availability means you're okay with the resource working with operations. Again, that is not solving the problem. Request the project sponsor to authorize resource allocation. Very important point. You'll see a lot of question in the exam in which there would be unilateral information or communication. without taking into consideration the party with which you have a dispute or difference of opinion or conflict. So you have a problem with functional manager here. So without taking them in the loop, you cannot directly escalate to product sponsor. And one of the tips for the exam, please remember, escalation is the last resort. When nothing is working, then you go for escalation. Best action in this regard is you talk to the functional manager, right? You discuss with the functional manager like how important this resource is for your project. And based on that, if they understand, yes, resource is important, maybe they agree, yes, you can take that resource. If they don't agree, then you can go for maybe partial resource sharing. Then if it doesn't work, then maybe you can talk to sponsor if that resource is super important for your project. So this is the sequence, logical sequence that you need to follow. So use elimination technique, be cooperative, communicate, do analysis, do not escalate. These are some of the lessons from this particular question. So question is very precise. You can see just one liner, and in the exam, it would be half liner because in the exam, the width of the, that screen in terms of words is large. So this is a half liner question, but very critical from exam perspective. Correct answer is discuss the risk of not having the resource with stakeholders, right? So functional manager is also one of the stakeholders. All right, let's read the explanation. Mohan?
So how did you, so I picked A. I mean, I didn't pick D because if you go back to those options, D was discuss the risk of not having the resource with stakeholders, right? And I think you mentioned that function manager is the key, one of the key stakeholders as well. Um, I didn't think that was implicit, right, in D. I mean, that's why I picked A because that was the next best. Because even if you negotiate partial resources, I mean, I understand it's a critical project or a critical resource, right, for the project, but there's no indication here that it's necessary to have, 100% of that FTE or the resource in that program, in that project.
That's correct. And also there is no indication like you can continue if you have that resource partially. So it's ambiguous on both sides. There is no indication like you need a resource for the full time, and there is no indication you need resource for half time. If there is no information, you need to do the analysis first in order to come to the conclusion if you need a resource for full time or for, partially. Without an analysis, you cannot directly negotiate.
Right, but PMIism, right? It's like, hey, let's resolve this issue internally before you go to stakeholder, right? So that's number one, as you said too, right? So,
Okay, that's a good question. So stakeholders does not mean you're going to any external entity. So stakeholders means whoever is the relevant stakeholder, right? So intentionally functional manager isn't written. Then the question would be very simple and easy. Then there is no point of having the question, right? So discuss the risk of not having the resource with stakeholders. So it's understood whoever is the relevant stakeholder, you need to talk to them, right? Because in the question, it doesn't exactly say what is the, designation of that individual who is responsible or who is the reporting officer of the resource. So you need to talk to them. You need to tell them like how important this resource is for your project. And then if they agree, great. If they don't agree, then you can go for other options. Does it make sense, Mohan?
yeah, yeah.
All right, great. Next question, please. All right. So, Rahul, why you have chosen option C?
So for every new development, the first thing I think that PM should be doing is like looking into the requirements.
Mm-hmm.
Or when you're clear on the requirements, what needs to be done, only then you can look for, accurate resources with that skill set. There's no point looking for developing a resource or calendar when you're not clear what's needed. So I think that's one.
All right. Callum, you have chosen option D. Why?
That's because we are in the very early stage of the planning. So then work breakdown structure and the things are not being done yet. So if you want to get more information about what might have happened in the past and probably lesson learned repository or things like that, we can get more information about how to tackle that sort of project environment. So that's the best thing, I think.
All right. Now, that's again very important. A lot of students, they get into this trap. They assume things. So, Callum's, your approach is right, but early stages, what is meant by early stages? Early stages means it's first day, it's first week, it's first 2 weeks, because in planning, you have to plan for 10 different knowledge areas. So maybe you have developed something, you have developed, let's suppose, work breakdown structure. I'm just giving an example, but you haven't done remaining 90 things. For example, you haven't done anything regarding schedule, cost, risk, quality, a lot of other things. So it is still early stage.
Yeah.
So we cannot assume that, okay? Your approach is right, but just try not to assume anything which is not given in the options or the statement. This question is very straightforward, simple, as Rahul explained. Whenever you want to do something, you start with requirements. You want to identify project resources, so start with WBS. Another thing is you review OPAs when you are doing similar project. Okay, OPAs are procedures, policies, and methods. When you're looking for templates, when you're looking for formats, when you're doing similar project, you review OPAs. Correct answer is option C. Let's read the explanation. All right, do read these explanations. These are important for conceptual clarity. Okay, next question, please. All right, so I can see different answers. Felicity, you have chosen option C.
Not for any particularly great reason. Sort of process of the elimination, I guess, that I didn't think he'd be the functional manager. And I don't know, I haven't read through the Agile book that you provided before, so I'm not sure if it would be the product owner or the project sponsor. I guess it seemed logical that it'd be the project manager.
Okay, right. One question. Do we have project manager before project charter is signed?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
I mean, in my experiences in the industry, we have had the project manager assigned and he's the one developing the project charter.
Okay, right. Mohan?
I picked D, product owner, because before the charter, he is, assuming he's allocated to the program, he's closest to the customer, and the external or internal stakeholders. Since he's representing the team, and the team is not formed yet, so that's why I picked D.
All right. Shazman, you have chosen A. Why?
Yes, because before the charter, project manager, product owner, they just don't exist. The only person responsible at the time before the charter is project sponsor.
All right, so that is correct. In project management, formally project starts when charter is signed. Before charter, there is no project, there is no project manager. The only person who is the owner of the project, who is responsible for forming initial team, even the project manager is project sponsor. So who hires project manager or appoints project manager? It's the sponsor, right? So before charter, there is no project manager. Project manager comes into picture when charter is formally signed. So from an exam perspective, keep this in your mind. If there is no charter, officially, formally, that organization does not have that project. A project comes into picture when you sign this charter and it is signed by the sponsor. So authority and responsibility before charter rest with the sponsor until it is delegated to project manager. Okay. What Felicity mentioned, different organizations do things differently. That's perfectly okay, right? PMI does not say like, if an organization ABC is doing things this way, that is wrong. No, it's just a different way of thing. But PMI has standardized something, right? So for standardization, charter is the basic document that kickstart the project. Once your charter is signed, your project is officially started and project manager's appointment is happened. Correct answer is project sponsor. As Shazman mentioned, before charter, there is no official project manager, there are no product owner, no one. So sponsor is the ultimate authority. Let's read the explanation.
And Amar, also the project sponsor is the one who initiates the project and signs the project charter, correct?
Absolutely, yes. All right, next question. All right, so there are 20 people in the call and only 3 answers. So I'll find $1 each if you don't respond. Okay, so Anna, you have chosen option A. Why?
Because I believe having conversations or interviews with the stakeholders or potential stakeholders will help us determine their skills and yeah, necessary for the project. I mean, the other answers don't seem to be correct to me.
Okay, right. Mohan, you have chosen option A. Why?
This is a very tricky question. I chose option A, but I'm having doubts because it says holding interviews with potential team members to discuss their experience and engage their interest. I mean, it should have been with potential stakeholders, unless, so I'm not sure about A, but then the rest of the options are not that great either because because C is just saying feedback from human resource, which is very random, right? And D is not PMism. Reviewing artifacts from previous projects to determine. I mean, I think B is the only best option, so I kind of pick B instead of A.
All right. So question says, while you're building team, you need to assess stakeholders' skills. So main stakeholders in this regard are your internal team members or, cross-functional teams or teams who are working in different functions. So you need to assess their skills. You are the project manager. You know what sort of skill set is required. And the question is, what is the best method to assess skill set? Is it reviewing previous project? So not sure previous project is relevant to your current project or not. So looking at previous project would not help in this situation. Seeking feedback from the human resources department. From HR department, you can get feedback, and that is not the best way because they could provide you feedback about behavioral indicators, not from technical perspective, from the skill set that you need for your project. So you actually know what sort of skill set you need. Letting the functional manager appraise the skills, functional manager has nothing to do with it. It's your project, you're responsible for that. The best method is talk to the team member, discuss your project, assess their skill set, and try to understand if they are relevant to your project. Correct answer is option A. Let's read the explanation. Okay, Felicity.
I was just going to say that I liked option A until the last three words, engage their interest. And I was like, why would you be gauging their interest? What does that have to do with them working and, doing their job on the project? So that was why I eliminated it.
Yeah, this is important. PMI, it's very cooperative, collaborative, and very, it gives freedom and autonomy. So you check if people are relevant and they are, motivated, they are passionate to work for your project. So you organize project around motivated individuals. You might have learned this one of the principles, right? So gauging interest could be helpful. Primarily it's experience, discuss their experience, relevance. But if you talk about interest, that is also helpful. Lela?
Yeah, but why would you appraise the stakeholder skills?
Yeah,
I mean,
team members are your stakeholders. So you need to assess their
that's what I was confused. I'm like, I mean, if probably would say a team, I would just go with the A. That's kind of throw me. I was thinking of A, and I'm like, it's saying stakeholders. I never thought of that. Stakeholders could be your team.
Yeah. So team members are your stakeholders, internal stakeholders. Stakeholders are categorized in two categories, internal and external. So you, your team, your senior management, functional manager, PMO, all are internal stakeholders.
Stakeholders.
Right? And you can also include external stakeholders as part of your team as well, right? If they are relevant, you need them, you can include them as well. Let's read the explanation. All right, next question. All right, so Yusuf, you have chosen option A. Why?
Yeah, because this looks more practical actually. You have a resources, maybe it's not distributed well between different team members. But the others, like if you go to the review the histogram and other things, this will not end up with a solution for the issue. And reminding the people with the team charter, I'm not sure if this will include when they have to leave and so on.
Okay.
Updated resources, related policies and procedures. This is maybe the next step afterward. I'm not
Okay.
sure.
Thank you. Rahul, would you like to respond to Yusuf?
I think from what I have learned so far and from previous questions, it's like we need to do analysis first of so in this situation I would analyze first like what's going on and what they're doing and everything. So that's why I chose answer B, to firstly review before actually implementing or updating or reminding team about anything. So that was my reasoning behind my selection.
All right, thank you. So, Mohan, you have chosen option D. Why?
Yeah, so I didn't pick B because even though it says review and review the resource histogram, and my thought was resource histogram as what are the resource working in which functional area, right? Um, but that doesn't really solve the problem, like the above problem. Team charter is RACI or the RAM, right? A is taking an action without understanding what the root cause is. So I think based on that, I kind of eliminated all the three. And even though D is not the best choice, that's what I think.
Okay, so nothing is correct. None of these. Should add one more option. So Mohan pointed out one important point, like without doing root cause analysis, as Rahul mentioned, we can't directly implement resource leveling. First, we need to understand like why this is happening. What's the reason? Why some people are leaving early and why some people are, sitting late. So the very first thing is we need to understand the situation. So implement resource leveling and resource smoothing directly without analyzing. That's not the option. Maybe we can do that later, right? But that's not the first action. So question says, what is the first action that you should take? Second option, review the histogram. So histogram tells you it's a graphical representation of resource allocation, how your resources are allocated. Histogram tells you the allocation of your resources, how your resources are allocated and where they are allocated. Remind the team to adhere to the team charter. Team charter has nothing to do with this. Team charter is more about norms, values, behaviors, code of conduct, decision-making authorities, right? Conflict resolution methods. And update the project resource related policies. You cannot update without analyzing, without understanding what's going on, without defining the solution, what you will be updating. Correct answer is review the histogram. Try to understand resource allocation. If there is anything wrong with the allocation, then you go with the updation and other stuff. If there is nothing wrong with the allocation, it's just the team behavior or it's just the team habits. Some team members, they have habit of sitting late. Some team members, they complete their job early, complete, and they just leave. Or there could be other reasons as well. Maybe there are some emergent tasks going on. That's why some team members are sitting. So maybe there is no need of resource leveling because that is important at that particular point in time. So you cannot directly do resource leveling and smoothing. Let's read the explanation.
But also labeling resources.
Alan, 1 second. Let everybody read the explanation. Raise your hand. I'll take your point.
Okay.
All right. Alan, go ahead.
Sorry. But also labeling use the Instagram tool, right? So there is, I was a little bit confused because labeling, as I remember, use that tool also. So for me, that in my knowledge, I think that would be the same answer, right?
So you are asking about difference between resource leveling and resource smoothing?
No. Resource leveling also use histogram too. So A and B are the same answer for me.
No, Alan, both are entirely different things. So one is reviewing the histogram, trying to understand the problem, right? Second is taking an action, amending your resource distribution, changing your resource calendar, changing your resource histogram. First is reviewing the histogram, second is changing the histogram. And also first option is incorrect because resource leveling is different, resource smoothing is different. So we need to decide what we need to do. We can't do all two together, or we are doing resource leveling and smoothing. Leveling has another purpose, smoothing has another purpose. This is an important concept from exam perspective. So in order to balance out uneven distribution of resources, you go with resource leveling. But the problem drawback of resource leveling is that it extends your critical path. If you don't want to extend your critical path, you go with resource smoothing. So first you need to understand what exactly you want to do. Then you decide if you will be doing resource leveling or resource smoothing. So option B is trying to understand the problem. Option A is taking an action to solve the problem. So both are entirely different. Is it okay, Alan?
Okay, yeah, got it. Thank you.
All right, next question, please. All right, only two answers. Rahul is doing A/B testing. So, okay, Felicity, you have chosen option C. Why?
This is a difficult question because I feel like there are too many unknowns with all of the answers. I mean, the company I work for right now takes a long time to hire people, so that doesn't seem like a quick answer. But other companies are swift. I went with the outsourcing option because I think a lot of companies tend to have a service provider that's handy and can get them a resource quicker than doing a full-blown hiring job. Similarly with the training, I feel like if you don't have the skills now, you would probably have to get an external trainer, in which case you need to find a trainer and whatever. So I feel like it'd be the same timeline as hiring someone and then transferring the task out. I mean, there's nothing in the question to indicate that other people in the company have that skill set. So yeah, I just kind of went with the least problematic answer, I guess.
All right, perfect. Okay, Anna, you have chosen option A. Sorry, C.
C, yes. Because in the question, it mentions that it's a new feature and it's urgent. So hiring or providing training would take too much time. So the easiest or, the most appropriate would be to outsource that part of the project. So,
All right, thank you. Rahul, why A and why B? I'll find the option so that we cover all. Yeah.
I agree with them. Even my company takes like forever to hire a resource, and like it can literally take forever due to all the approvals and everything. So, but here, I don't know, looking at other options like D kind of doesn't make sense. There is nothing to do with the functional manager here. And outsourcing kind of makes sense, but I'm not sure on that. So providing training could be one option. Like we can, train people and they can, start working on that specific skill set, or bring in new person. Yeah, for me, I'm confused between A and B. I mean, I could be wrong. Yeah.
So now actually you're confused between A, B, and C, right?
Yeah.
After listening to explanation,
I mean,
right?
because as per real world,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it takes forever to hire people,
absolutely.
but training can be provided. I mean, I would be more inclined towards B.
That's the main point. Hiring takes a lot of time, right? And it's just one feature. It's not, you're hiring for the entire product or for long term. It's just one feature, right? Even if you are able to hire, what will you be doing next after that? Problem with training is that it's urgency that you need to deliver. And training we provide, training takes time. Like it's not easy to, if you don't have a skill set, you can easily train your team members. For example, if you don't know any software, how to use that. So it's not like that tomorrow you will be having a training and the third day you will be efficient enough to do that. If your team doesn't know how to code, it's not like that you provide training for coding and right 2 days or 3 days after they would be able to do that. Training is the long-term process, right? And training is longer than even hiring, right? You hire a skilled person, he starts doing the job, but training takes a lot of time. So due to urgency of task, training is also irrelevant. Hiring a resource is also irrelevant. Option D is also irrelevant. Correct answer is outsource the development considering the information provided in the question. If you don't have such resource or such skill set in the team, nobody is able to do that, and it's required for one feature, it's better to quickly deliver by outsourcing. Okay. Correct answer is option C. Chinamis?
Yeah, well, I wanted to choose C, but why I went with A is if you outsource the development of this feature, the knowledge doesn't stay with the team. It stays outside the team. But if you hire someone who comes in with the team, you retain the other team members can retain that knowledge after that feature is done. That's why I chose A.
That is also a good point. So focus on the problem which is mentioned in the question. Simple. Whenever you solve PMP exam question, look at the problem. What's the problem that you want to solve? And if you look at those 25 points, one of the points is try to solve the problem. And this is what we are consistently discussing in previous lessons as well. So for example, it's good to say like, we should be honest, we should always say truth. All these things are right. But would they solve the problem? If saying this or, publishing this is not solving problem, then there is no point of saying this, even if it is right. So yes, you're right. Knowledge could be that's the secondary thing. Right now, your challenge is meeting project deadlines or, meeting those urgent needs. So knowledge is secondary there, okay? Right, so let's read the explanation. All right, next question. All right, so Yusuf, why you have chosen option A?
Yeah, because the cross-functional concept of the team, it's part of it is the one who doesn't know should train the other ones. The only reason I have this.
Okay, thank you. Fahad, you have chosen option A. Why?
I feel that tasking the team member with training the team members would be the quickest solution. If you look at the other options, well, they feel as if all of them are right, but telling the team member to specifically train the other team members on that skills instead of having somebody else shadow them would allow for better transfer of knowledge.
Okay, right. Rahul, you have chosen option C.
For me, A and B are kind of same because training and KT sessions I think they fall under the same category. So I chose C because documenting can help from long-term perspective. And yeah, it's a tricky one. C or D both could be correct because um, honestly, I've done D. Like, we shadow people and we also ask people to, shadow other people. So that's the best way to learn rather than training them or, just doing one KT session that doesn't really help. So, yeah.
All right, thank you. Anna, you have chosen option D.
Yes, because it's talking about that this team member possesses critical specialized skills. It's not talking about knowledge, right? So the first three options, it talks about training, knowledge transfer, document for knowledge. I believe that has nothing to do with skills. So assigning another team to shadow the skill team member, I believe that would be the most appropriate action.
All right. So this is for the first time we have learned like trainings have nothing to do with skills. Right, Anna?
It's different, right? I mean, knowledge and skills, it's not the same thing.
But first option, there is nothing relevant to knowledge. It says task the team member with training other team members, like you're training others. Anyway, thank you for explanation.
Okay.
Jashri, you have chosen option B. Why?
B I have selected is someone. So tasking the team member with training other team members, like it is handing over the training responsibility to the expert team member, which we have a dependency slightly over that. And on top of it, if we go for option B, arranging a regular team meeting for knowledge transfer, the KT will happen for sure. You can be sure of that. That is one advantage. And C and D can be ruled out, to my understanding, is instructing the team member to document her knowledge. The document will be in papers. The team members might or might not refer and take the knowledge from it. And assign another team member to shadow. The skill will be left with just one other team member and not to the whole of the team. Again, the dependency will be on that single team member, other than the expert.
All right, thank you. Callum, you have chosen option D. Why?
That's because the third one, document, we can't, I mean, tacit knowledge can't be documented. And then regular meetings, yeah, it's a good one, but not at this point. So we can't pass because the question says that there's a critical knowledge. So probably the other team members don't have any capacity. So then out of those four, the D is the best.
All right, thank you. Okay, so if we see task the team member with training other team members, arrange regular team meetings for knowledge transfer, instruct the team member. Problem with option C is what Callum has mentioned. Knowledge is categorized into two categories: explicit knowledge and tacit knowledge. Explicit knowledge you can document, like processes, policies, steps, tools, and techniques. But tacit knowledge, which is unspoken, which is your personal experiences, your beliefs, your values, the way you handle those situations, those are not easy to document. So whenever we go with knowledge transfer, right, we try to have interactions among team members rather than just documenting. Documenting could be for, you're documenting issues, lessons learned for future references. That could help. What's the process you followed? What was the outcome? But if there is a specialized skills that you cannot transfer just by documenting. If you look at the question, it says the team member possesses critical specialized skills that are currently absent in the rest of the team. Okay, so we are excluding option C. Option D says assign another team member to shadow the skilled team member. Why just one team member? Why not all the team members or relevant team members? Right? Yes, shadowing is an option that you can do. And it's also a long-term process. Shadowing is not like that. You just observe one day and you learn. It's again long-term, but you're doubtful, like there is a potential team member could leave. So you need to take some action. Option A, task the team member with training other team members. So just imagine what if training happens, what would be the result? If that senior team member or experienced team member trains other team member about that skill set, would it be, useful in transferring the risk or not, or skills or not? I think it would be. When you train people, you transfer risk, transfer skills, and it's the best way of teaching, right? Rather than documenting, rather than having random meetings, right? Or rather than doing shadowing. So in order to have transfer explicit and implicit knowledge, trainings are the best ways, right? And since none of the team members has those skill set, so correct answer is task the team members with training other team members. Let's read the explanation. And with training, you transfer skills, not just knowledge. Okay, read the explanation, please. All right, I hope it is clear. Let's move to the next question. All right, so all of you have chosen, most of you have chosen option A. So who would like to explain why? Fahad?
Since the sponsor has unilaterally, that is, without consulting the project manager or the functional manager, he has reassigned the critical resource. So it would make sense for the project manager to communicate with the sponsor and try to explain his side of the story and try to explain the value of that resource to the completion of the project. So I think it would be helpful if we try to renegotiate the availability of that resource back to the project.
All right, thank you. Anna, you have chosen A. Why?
Because it makes sense to meet with the sponsor because it's my project sponsor as well, and let him or her know that that critical resource is needed for the project. So yeah, I think that's the option that makes more sense.
Okay, thank you. Lala, you have chosen option D.
Yeah, so I think we should consult the issue with the functional manager to aware him that he's changing these and then, well, I think I felt that that would be appropriate action, the next action that I should take. That consult him that he's moving this, resources.
But Lala, functional manager has nothing to do with that. It's the sponsor who has unilaterally reassigned a critical resource, not the functional manager. So functional manager has nothing to do with it. Okay?
Okay.
Right. Callum, you have chosen option B.
Yeah, that's because we can go and have a look at the sponsor. Have a meeting with the sponsor, but he is the one who selected by himself to move the critical resource. So then there may be a good explanation for him as well. So then what if I am the project manager, what I do is just analyze what's the current situation, okay, what's the best alternative to solution, and then if I have that understanding, then I can go to as a second step and see the sponsor and explain him the alternatives as well as another input for his decision making.
All right. Mohan, you have chosen option B. Why?
She chose I later changed it to option C. I eliminated A because it's a unilateral decision where the sponsor decided to take the resource for a higher priority project, right? So trying to meet with him again and try to convince him wouldn't be materialize anything. B is a very broad alternate, explore available alternatives, but C is more requesting and working with the stakeholder to seek and negotiate a replacement of the resource. So that's why I kind of picked C, which is the best option.
All right. So Mohan, C option couldn't be correct because if, for example, resource is critical for your project, let's suppose, Replacement would not help. You understand? If a resource is critical to your project, you need that resource. Replacement would not help. And you need to determine if you have replacement as well or not.
Mhm.
So C can't be the first action that you would be taking, right? Or the most appropriate action. It's more passive, right? If something has happened, just requesting for a replacement. Okay, please give me another resource. It's not the job of the functional managers or sponsors who would be finding resources for you. You need to be proactive in that. You need to define your own team. If something happens, you need to suggest options like this we can do this, we can do this. Okay, Yusuf, you have chosen option B. Why?
Yeah, I'm looking for B because A, the relevancy of the need of the resource is there because already the question stated that. The other two options, C and D, already you are discussing it, so it's not going to help. So if you have an alternative, this is you're looking for the solution actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, so you're missing the principle again that we are discussing again and again. Try to analyze the problem, try to understand the situation, and then move forward. Meeting with sponsor without having any information would not help. Look for any alternatives. Like if you have any alternative, as Fahad mentioned, if sponsor has done something, there is a reason behind that. It's not like that just, sponsor gets up and says, okay, remove that resource. There should be some reason behind that. So the proactive approach is look for alternatives. If you have some alternatives, go meet with the sponsor. If you don't have alternative, talk to them, tell them you need that resource. Otherwise, present them with alternatives like these are various options. If that is not possible, do this. So being proactive, you need to analyze the situation, you need to explore alternatives, and then you need to meet to the relevant authority. Right? Correct answer is option B. Let's read the explanation. All right, I hope it is clear. Let's move to the next question. All right, so Chinamis, why you have chosen option C?
I just did elimination here. I eliminated A, privately advise a team member to raise, doesn't make sense. And then D, delegate all risk management activities to the detail-oriented team member, doesn't make sense to me. and offer the team members additional training in risk management. Doesn't make sense. So discuss the impact of varying risk activities on team dynamics. Seems like the sensible course of action for me.
All right, thank you. Fahad, you have chosen option B.
Okay, so we have one person who's very meticulous and frequently raises concerns about potential risks, regardless of whether they're large or small. But the anxiety or the fear for the rest of the team members, I think, stems from their lack of understanding of risk and risk management. So, if they were trained on risk management, perhaps they would be better able to understand what the other member is um, not trying to say, but they would be better able to understand what the level of those risks would be. So this would help cull the anxiety and the hampering to the progress of the project.
All right. So Fahad, problem with this approach is that impact of risk varies from person to person. So maybe $1,000 loss for a person A is a small risk, and maybe the same $1,000 loss for a person B would be a huge loss. You understand? Depending upon their financial situation. So attitude towards risk could vary. It could be different. That's why we study stakeholders' risk attitude. We talked about concept of risk appetite, risk tolerance, risk thresholds. A stakeholder could be risk averse. So for example, if somebody is risk averse, we don't say be risk taker. No. You understand? If somebody is risk averse in their life, we don't change their attitude towards risk. So if somebody is risk taker, if somebody is risk averse, we don't want to change them. So option A and B are meant to change these two types of people. So A, B are incorrect, right? We can't force A to be risk taker or the team to be risk averse. You understand? We can't do that. We need to understand their risk attitude or their situation. Delegate all risk management activities to the detail-oriented team. Again, it's not relevant. Correct answer is discuss the impact. Like, okay, now we have different behavior. Okay, let's discuss how we would be solving that. So discuss the impact of having different behavior about risk. So that is the correct answer. All right, so let's read the explanation. All right, everyone. So thank you so much. We're done with 10 questions. If you have any issue, problem in application, anything, feel free to schedule one-on-one meeting with me by scanning this QR code, or you can drop a text. And also tomorrow, same time, we will be having lessons learned regarding PMP exam. So that is based on my personal experience. I hope you know I took exam on 26th of Feb. It was a good experience. So I wrote exam only for you. So because a lot of students were reporting, there are a lot of things which have changed. So I wanted to experience myself, like what they have changed. So nothing has changed. Everything is same. Exam was simple, easy. Maybe my friends say because you have been teaching for last 10 years, so that's why it's easy. So if you look at my score, it's right on the extreme, around 95 or 96 or 97%. Yes, it's because I have been teaching, but the benefit of this is that now I'm in a better position to tell you how the exam would look like. So tomorrow, same time, we will be discussing lessons learned. So must join if you are planning to write the exam in March or April. Those learnings would be really helpful. Thank you so much, everybody. See you on tomorrow and then on Monday with an interesting lesson for 10 more question answers. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you, Omar.
Thanks, Amar.
Thank you.